All right, hello, welcome back to some more Higurashi When They Cry. Part 4. I think it's part 4. Yeah, part 4. Himatsubushi. Okay, so last time we got a lot of information on sort of the past of what was happening in Hinamizawa during the actual protest of the dam construction thing. And we got to meet a young Rika and hang out with her pretty much throughout. Oh wait, hold on. Is this shit gonna keep ringing? Hold on. The phone suddenly rang. I woke up in a hurry. The clock read 9 p.m. Damn it. I pick up the receiver. Okay. Old ass visual novels. They just keep it. Nah, actually, I think when I read what's it called? Witch on the Holy Night, Mahoyo. When I read that was also repeated the ringing of stuff. But anyway, yeah. So we're in the town. We're sort of, walking on eggshells right now with the people of this town. We're trying to be respectful and sort of play off this idea that we're just here on vacation, even though this motherfucker fucked up and was like, "Yeah, my wife's pregnant, but I'm here on vacation." So whatever. But yeah, we met Rika, and Rika at some point kind of seemed like she got possessed, taken over. I don't know how else to describe it, but she started talking very differently. Her voice completely changed. I don't know if it's the same voice actress. I'm not very good with voices too much, unless it's very distinct. But like I can't tell if someone's like not doing like a kid's voice, basically. But yeah, like hearing her and she basically had a completely different voice. So we want to know, like, is she possessed? Is she something? I don't know. Maybe it's Oyashi or something. Maybe it's not. She is supposed to be the reincarnation of him, so I don't know if it's like his spirit in her body, and it like, and like Rika is a separate entity from Oyashiro, or if Rika is Oyashiro-sama. I don't know. Either way, we're here. We eventually left and decided to go back to the to the hotel room to report in, and we woke up today and I guess we forgot to report in. So yeah, that's kind of all that happened, really. Pretty good chapter. We got to hang out. There's some cute scenes of Rika sort of like hanging out and just like taking pictures and shit. It was really cute. I really liked that scene. I picked up the receiver.
Akasaka-sama.
Yo, what's good, man?
外線からお電話が入っておりますが、おつなぎしてもよろしいでしょうか。ご同僚の加納様と申されております。
I knew it. I didn't call in, so they had phoned me.
すみません。つないでください。
Oh yeah, right. Hold on. Before in the notes. That's another tips. I keep saying notes. What game uses the term notes? But I think there's another visual novel. But in the tips, it gave us one where each chapter is giving us like almost like this manifesto from like this character who talks about like various things. The first one is sort of talking about how basically you have to be apathetic about sort of other people's problems that are so distant from you that it doesn't matter to you. Like someone else is suffering on the other side of the world has no effect on you. And then like the next one talked about like sort of like the mundanity of life. Like days go by and nothing changes, and he hates that, or them, she, whatever. And they hate that. They absolutely hate the fact that of this idea of a routine, and sort of like saying like, I love rainy days because the idea of it just randomly raining, even though the forecast told us that it won't, makes that day better because no one thought of it was going to happen, essentially. Those were the two things. We might get another one at the end of this chapter, so we're going to have to look out for that. I don't know who it could possibly be. I don't know. Maybe it's someone we already know, or maybe it's someone new, but I don't know. We also saw young Mion. I didn't really get too much from that, other than her and her grandma seem to be in a pretty good relationship. They don't seem to be on bad terms, especially back right here in this time period. So yeah, there's that. And that's kind of all we saw.
おつなぎしますので、一度受話器を置いてお待ちください。
After I had put down the receiver for a few seconds, the phone began to ring again. Moshi moshi. Moshi moshi.
赤坂です。
赤坂くん、可能です。お疲れ様。定時連絡がなかったので、こちらからかけました。そちらの状況はどう？
Leaving the lecture for later, my senior coworker got straight to the
今
point.
日はひなみ沢村へ実島に行きました。観光客を装うことで、村長以下の何人かの刺繍同盟の要人との接触に成功。何も聞き出すには至りませんでしたが、好印象を得て、明日以降へのつなぎを作ることができました。
そう。なかなか手際がいいね。赤坂くんのどこか初々しい感じが、むしろ武器になったのかもしれないね。まずは上守備ってところかな。
比較するほど経験がないので、上守備かはわかりませんが。とりあえず、今日のところは順調だと思います。
県警での情報や、地元警察の公安での情報と照らし、鬼ヶ淵刺繍同盟は白っぽい？
I still didn't know. I should have been able to say that immediately. I only had to say that, but for some reason I hesitated.
まだ調査中ですので、なんとも。
そう、なるべく早めにね。
No, whoops. Could you let us know as soon as
分か
possible?
ってると思うけど、今夜が終われば、誘拐から丸4日が経過する。いつが時間切れという明白な区切りはないけど、時間の経過は確実に我々の状況を不利にしていく。
That's right, and we're also getting hints of like the kid who got kidnapped from like the two kidnappers' point of view. In like the tips.
それは分かってるよね。
ええ、分かっています。迅速に。だけれど、細心の注意で調査を続けます。
うん。くれぐれも気をつけてね。相手は暴力主義団体なんだから、油断すれば危険もあり得るからね。危険が迫ったらすぐに連絡を。その場合は、地元公安に応援体制を入れられるようにするからね。
ありがとうございます。頑張ります。
他に、赤坂くんの方から連絡はある？
I reported several bits of supplementary information, and at the very end, I decided to ask.
そちらの調査の進展はどうですか？
うん。こっちもみんな頑張ってるけど、なかなかはかどらないよ。何しろ、調べる団体が星の数だからね。だから、君の方の団体も白だと分かったらすぐに帰郷して、他の職員の応援に入ってもらいたいんだよ。室長は、鬼ヶ淵も洗っとけって言ってるけど、俺は鬼ヶ淵なんかの反ダム住民団体なんかは、今回の件、全く無縁だと思ってるからね。職員一人を一団体調べさせるためだけに出張させるのは、すごく痛いよ、ほんと。
Okay. At this point, he was just complaining. He was telling me to stop taking time enjoying my trip, to finish up and get back quick.
なるべく早めにケリをつけるようにします。
うん、よろしくね。じゃあ、他に何もなければ切るよ。
はい。特にありません。
As we were ending our call, he scolded me thoroughly for being late with my regular report. After that, I hung up the phone and sprawled out on the bed. Come to think of it, I hadn't heard anything from Moyoshi. He was supposed to contact me about a time and place to meet with the informant tonight. I thought about getting angry with Oyoshi in relation for being scolded for forgetting my daily report. Come to think of it, though, Oyoshi didn't really say anything other than that he was going to call tonight. Waiting for a phone call when you don't know what time it was going to come was in itself rather difficult. Oh, speak of the devil. Just when I thought that, the phone rang. I picked up the receiver in a hurry.
もしもし。
これはびっくりしました。赤坂さん、あなた受話器取るの早いですね。警官辞めても大企業の営業で十分飯が食えますよ。
Wait, how did you know?
まだ警官辞めた後のことなんか考えたこともありません。
そこまで過剰に反応されると。 面白いな。
The lady does protest too much.
しかしいけないな。因果な商売ですし、今から考えても遅くないですよ。
Oh my god, man. What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, I was wondering where his laugh was. He didn't do his laugh.
遠慮いたしますので、本題に入ってください、大石さん。
そうですか。
Really?
それは残念です。じゃあ老後の話は次の機会では本題。
Many of the executives in the Onigafushi Guardians had a lot of sway in the neighboring regions. Even in Okinomiya, there were a lot of people with relations in the village. That's why meeting in the Shishibone market district, far from Okinomiya, was a matter of course.
Akasaka さん、こっちこっち。
Yo, what's good, man?
ちょっと迷いましたが、北口からの方が遠回りだけど道は分かりやすかったかもしれませんね。
いえ、遅れて申し訳ありませんでした。
夕飯はもう食べちゃいました。
Did you eat dinner already?
済ませてあります。
じゃあ、お酒の飲めるお店に行きましょうか。洋酒派？日本酒派？女の子のいる店といない店はどっちがいいですか？
お構いなく。勤務中は飲みませんので。
Hearing that, the man that Oyoshi had brought along bent backwards as he clapped Oyoshi on the shoulder, clamping Oyoshi on the shoulder.
初々しい人でしょ？その分ちょっぴりサービスしてあげてくださいよ。あのお金は全部彼のお財布から出てるんですからね。
The man that Oyoshi had brought seemed almost like a ticket scalper or a bookie. Even his appearance was dubious. The informant grinned deviously. Alright, so we're not getting a spread. So it's like literally no one we
お
know.
前旦那にいくら渡した？だいぶ途中でつまみ食いされてんぞ。
大石氏への仲介手数料も含めていますから、それも含んだ上です。
It seemed that the informant had expected a more extravagant reaction on my part. When I responded matter-of-factly, he realized that I was an entirely different type of person than he was. But rather than put a distance between us, it seemed that I had piqued his interest.
だから言ったでしょ。真面目な人なんです。でもね、赤坂さん。私たちのような職種の人間は豊富な社会経験がとても武器になるんですよ。
女の子がいてお酒が飲めるお店での経験がどう武器になるか疑問です。
Oh my god, that laugh. The informant, unable to contain himself, clutching at his stomach as he gawked heedlessly of the people's watching.
いや、もう赤坂さんはいちいち察しがいいな。よっ、さすが高学歴。
大石さん。
Oshi-san. The fuck?
あなた、どこかで飲んできましたね。
The fuck? Oshi-san, you've been drinking somewhere, haven't you?
笑ってます。
Oh, is this guy already
タイ
drunk?
ムに飲んで何が悪いんですか？
What an asshole.
あなたは勤務中でも私、おふふふふ。
Yo, this guy's an asshole, man. Oshi, who was the sort that fool around to begin with, was in such a good mood. I couldn't figure out a way to deal with him. Completely different than me, who had come worried about getting every bit of information I could. Oshi-san, after taking so much money, you were supposed to get me information worth at least as much. I thought this, but then realized I was getting my information from the informant, so it didn't matter how drunk Yoshi was. It was nothing I couldn't complain about, but I still felt slightly riled up. Oshi and the informant. It was no doubt a fake name, but he introduced himself as Sato, led the way deeper and deeper into the back streets of the market district. Even though the market was bustling, a couple of turns off the main street and you were in a desolate alleyway. Oshi started climbing a set of stairs on the side of the Seedly building, atop of the Seedly building, I guess. There wasn't any sort of signage, so I couldn't tell if this place was open or if it was even a store at all.
安心してください。怪しい店じゃありませんよ。
Brother, you're taking me to the back alleys on the fucking, like, market district or whatever. Like, how could I not be worried about this shit? Don't worry, this isn't a dubious place. Those words coming from Oyoshi's mouth had absolutely no credibility. Beyond the door was thankfully a typical mahjong parlor. I was relieved, and it wasn't the sort of suspicious place I had to be on my guard about.
はい、いらっしゃい。あら、大石さん、お久しぶり。こっち入ります？すぐ開きますよ。
いいえ。今日はセットですからいいです。お、待たせましたね。
Mahjong is a game played with 4 people. It seems that the middle-aged man who was going to be our 4th had already arrived and was waiting for us. Oshi made an excuse for why we had taken so long. Eventually realizing that I was a new face, the other man grew interested.
彼は赤坂さん。東京からはるばる出張されてきた将来有望な新人さんです。
坊主、お前麻雀はできんのか？まあ、学生時代にそこそこに。
Sato and the old man cackled in unison. Their plot to sucker me out of my money was painfully obvious.
緊張続きの出張で疲れておいでだろうと思いましてね。一つ今夜は心の選択でもして差し上げましょうか。
Bro, this guy's fucking annoying.
私たち警察官ですよね。
まあ、それは一個なしで。なに、実際にはかけるわけじゃありませんよ。
I really don't like Oyoshi. Like, I'm be honest, like that first part, I mentioned this before, that first part he seemed kind of, you know, like, okay. Like, he wasn't like that malicious or anything like that. He didn't really seem like a bad person. He genuinely did seem like he kind of worried about Keiichi, even though he was using him, like 100% he was using him. But it wasn't that bad. But man, I hate this guy. Like, even like right now he's not doing anything dubious, quote unquote, but it's just that personality type that he has, where clearly something is very serious going on and he's lackadaisical about it. You know, like, obviously he's trying to find a way to... I just hate being out of the loop of something. If this is your way of masking, like, us essentially trading information, that's fine. But I guess I just hate the idea of being led on like this. You know, just being sat down, enjoy yourself, let's play a game. You know, just like, I hate that shit. That shit pisses me off. And I'm in the perspective of the narrative right now, so I'm just like, ugh, this is annoying.
この後いいお店に遊びに行くときに誰が全員分を払うのか決めるだけですって。遊
びに行く？どんな店に遊びに行くんですか？
Without reservations, the three of them without reservation, the three of them started suggesting places like cabarets, high-class clubs, and even brothels. At the very least, they were the type of places that you could go to with money and was just for funsies.
私のお金は先日大石さんに根こそぎ預けて支払いは不可能ですし。
じゃあ坊主が勝てばいいじゃねえかよ。おめえが勝ったらこの雀荘の支払いはなしで、クラウドに仕事の話でも何でもすればいい。
No matter what happened, it seemed like they were intent on playing mahjong for free. I wouldn't have to fasten my resolve a bit. I would have to fasten my resolve a bit. If I was going to be underestimated like this forever, it was going to get in the way of my
わ
work.
かりました。では少しだけお付き合いします。私が勝ったらアフターの遊びは一切なしですぐに仕事の話に入ってもらいますからね。
いいですとも。
俺が勝ったらフラワーのブルーマーメイドに直行だからね。
On the place where girls dress up in gym clothing and maid
お
uniforms.
やっさんも好きだな。私はもちろん馴染みの店をはしごしまくりですよ。
Slurp, slurp, slurp.
佐藤さんはどうします？
私は静かに飲めるお店でいいですよ。
静かにバニーさんとでしょ。この間飲みに行った時、あんたバニーさんの尻尾を引っこ抜いちゃったでしょ。あれ結局弁償だったの？
マスターに縫製代とか言われて一本ドンペリ開けられたな。
What a lively table this was. I could tell the other customers were glaring at us while we loudly continued to our crude conversation. Speaking of which, the fact that they assumed I was the same was a bit disheartening. Oyoshi-san had taken all the money I brought, so everything I had left was out of my pocket. In addition, there weren't that much left of that either. If I kept on hanging around him like this, though his groaning, my wallet would disappear. Through his groaning, my wallet would disappear into the night. I had to somehow win and return the conversation to my job. Put these people, no matter how they look at it, were very good. But these people, no matter how they look at it, were very good. Sorry, Yuki.
そんじゃこれでリーチっと。
Well, the old man and Sato probably won't fall for this silly, Richi? I wonder if Akasaka will split out, what I need.
クラウドのリーチなんざどうせこの辺だろ。この辺なら通るだろ。それ。
Whoa, whoa. The old man's pretty good. He quietly trying to use one of my save tiles to complete his hand, isn't he? It seems that Akasaka-kun had at least learned the ropes when it comes to guarding against someone's reaching, but that will be his downfall.
どうした坊主。サクッと切らねえかい。よくわからなかったらクラウドと同じもんを切ってりゃ安全だぞ。
Oh, Akasaka-kun, really fretting over this one. It was glaringly obvious that he had a safe tile to discard, but he didn't want to throw it away because it would move him further from completing his hand. They're so nice when they're young and innocent. Come on, hurry up and throw out the kicker. If he gave me the winning tile, we'd be heading to the establishment where I could do with all sorts of licking and sucking. Holy shit, that's actually very explicit. If he gives the old man his winning tile, we'd be heading straight to the place with the maid in bloomers.
これは通りますか？
He looked up as he hesitantly threw out a tile that was, oh, too bad.
おいおい、危ねえパイだぞ。クラウド、通るのか。
いいと。
It seems this time you're lucky. You were lucky, but long as the round kept going, I could still win off the draw. It's interesting. We're in like Yoshi's perspective. But after that, Akasaka-kun managed to luckily avoid throwing any bad tiles, and somehow the round managed to end without anyone's completing a hand.
天杯
当点。
Sato had keenly anticipated that two players were in Richi and had decided to play it safe. What a cool-headed way of playing. Now, let's see, what kind of hand did Akasaka-kun have? When the round ended with nobody winning in Mahjong, anybody in Teppai was to show their hand. But if they're not in Teppai, you had no obligation to reveal it. Your average beginner would normally show their hand even if they weren't in Teppai, and start a commotion about how if this tile or that tile came, they would be in Teppai. But he didn't. Being stingy?
どうだって坊主。ちょっと見せてみ。
Sato reached over to flip the hand of Akasaka-kun's head, casually placed face down.
なんじゃこりゃ。
He was nowhere near Teppai. Was Akasaka-kun totally bad at this after all? Right then, as the old man compared the tiles from Akasaka-kun's hand to the discarded pool, the puzzled expression crossed his face.
坊主、おめえ、この辺りで張っとるだろ。どうして切った？
マンズの高いあたりが急に高騰しましたので抑えました。大石さんのリーチに対して安全性が高まったのにです。筋でさばけば無難なのにわざわざ抑えた方がいる。
おお、クラウドのテンパイなど鼻から論外っていうわけか？
相当高度な引っ掛けでなければ私の宝珠を期待したぬるめの手かと思って。それよりもダマで張ったあなたの方がとりあえずは問題だ。
いつテンパイしたのに気づいた？
この辺りですか。4タイムで4連続で切ってますよね。初めは食い替えかと思いましたが私をチラチラ見ていたので期待しているんだと気づきました。
Akasaka-kun, you...
赤坂さん、あんた麻雀始めてどのくらい？
高校から大学くらいまでの間しかやっていませんよ。さあ続けましょう。佐藤さんはテンパイしなかったから流れて次は私ですね。おや。
It seemed like Akasaka-kun is really aware of how the game flows. We thought we were going to eat him alive, but it looks like that isn't going to be so easy. Oh, whoa!
想図が濃すいですね。
Wow, we actually get a picture of him. Wow, okay. I thought we were never gonna get a picture of him.
回しますか。
この坊主、クラウド降りるな。
あと3つ。いい牌が来ればな。佐藤さんはうまくいきそうです。
くそ、食いたんで引きずり下ろすか。チーだ。
チーですか。じゃあすみません。それポンです。
Whoa, now going to call 3 of a kind after he declared a straight? Trying to override the interfere?
坊主、おめえ、
まさか私が生まれる前から打ってるような方々とは比べようもないですよ。それです。ロン。トイトイ赤がドラさん。親ですからね。ちょっぴり高いですよ。
くわっ
赤坂さんやるな。そりゃ我々も本気を出さねえ。
本気のついでに展望も出してもらいましょうかね。私は眠いんで手っ取り早く終わらせます。
Akasaka-kun? This is somehow unreal. Nah ha 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 ha. Before I could realize it, there was an ominous cold air emitting from beneath Akasaka's feet.
ぬるいですね。
God damn, his voice actor is really going for it.
マンズのリャンウーパーが笑ってませんか？
くしょう。坊主てめえ、クラウドおめえ差し込め。坊主の親とっとと下ろすだ。
悔しいですが、どうやらそうした方が賢明なようですね。
出た。ローだ。 はいよドライチ。
すみませんね。頭っぽピンフ
頭っぱねだ小僧のくせに。
小僧が相手だと。じゃああんたその小僧いいか。
Holy shit. That's kind of funny. That's like very like cocky shonen protagonist. Shonen?
面白いな。あんたら連中は決まって小僧だ坊主だって言うよ。
Yo, he is really getting into this.
赤坂くんですよね。なんだかムードが変わりまくりなんですが。
私をかもって今晩はいいお酒を飲むおつもりだったんでしょうが、どうやら皆さんの当ては外れそうです。単品3食赤1ドラ1。
おお、張ってやがったか。
だからあんたぬるい。いくらダマだからってこんなにぬるい3年なんだから読んでくれなくっちゃ。
Akasaka-kun chuckled as he rested his chin on his hand. The pose was so fitting, it was almost scary.
おいクラウド、話が違えぞ。初々しいカモがネギ背負ってきたって言ったのは誰だ。
いや誰でしょう。
おいさ、まずいよ。このままじゃ負けるよマジで。
Akasaka-kun, for you to make me get this serious. Looks like you really want to be milk dry. What the fuck, bro?
ポン気前がいいですね。もう一回ポンです。
Akasaka-kun almost signed singing at this point. The tiles he had opened were all in pin tiles. You can't be serious. Are you really going for the flush?
ポン
坊主正気か。4つも晒したらおめっぱいが1つだけじゃねえかよ。
そうですね。知ってます？短期待ちって一番読まれにくいらしいですよ。
バカ、そこまで染めて晒しといて今更出ると思うんじゃねえ。
読めてますよ赤坂さん。それ均一でも本一でもないんでしょう。4つポンした時点でトイトイは成立してますからね。あんた今絶好の単独トップ、こいつは均一と見せかけてトイトイで食おうという挑発手でしょう。
そう思うならピンズ切ってみます？大石さんの牌の左5つ、さっきから切り損ねてるピンズですよね。それを端から順に切ってみたらいいんじゃないですか？
You must be joking. Is he a mahjong god? If not, he had to be the main character of a manga or something. At that moment, the old man sent me a sign under the table. The message was simple and clear.
やれ、叩き潰せ。
こんな若い子に様は好きじゃないんですが。
あう、ここまで舐められて今さら引けるか。
もう知りませんよ。ではどうぞ。
行くぞ坊主。リーチだ。オープンで行くぞ。ピンズの一数値待ちだ。
Most likely, the tile that Akasaka-kun was waiting for was one of those tiles. The tile, sorry. With this, Akasaka-kun was no longer capable of winning the hand. When I drew from the wall, I switched out the tiles that Akasaka-kun would have drawn. The tiles that I put in was the one pin. One of the tiles that the old man was waiting on. Akasaka-kun discarded it a little while ago, so there was no threat of it being the one he needed.
おい、坊主の番だぜ。
I knew he was trouble, that the tiles he drew was the one. Of course he couldn't discard it.
分かってると思うが、オープンリーチに振り込んだら100万払いだぜ。
言われるまでもありませんよ。
You don't have to tell me, bitch. The tile that came from Akasaka-kun's hand was an honor tile. Ain't that something? There's only one north wind tile left, isn't there? You were counting on a really rough weight, weren't you? But with this, Akasaka-kun's fate was decided.
命拾いしたな。だが、手配は1名だ。逃げ切れなくなることもあるんじゃねえのか？
やっぱりそういうことか。
Akasaka-kun glared at the old man with a discerning eye. This guy had a pretty good instinct. Did he figure out we were cheating?
やめましょうよ、やっさん。赤坂君の方が2、3枚は上手です。
バル、ここまで来てやめられるか。次行け、使わせちまえ。
The next tile Akasaka-kun would draw was the 7-pin. With that, it would be settled. No matter which one he discarded, he played right into Old Man's hand. An unavoidable full payout. When I drew my tile, I sneakily swapped Akasaka. Crash. What? Akasaka-kun suddenly sneezed, collapsing the wall of tiles in front of him.
おいおい、な、
すみません。ついくしゃみをした拍子にバップ払いですね。親だから4000オールですか？それともバップは
Unable to hold back, I golfed. Akasaka-kun, knowing he was going to be cornered a second time and unable to escape, he took a drastic measure of knocking over his own wall.
やるなぁ、100万払いをそういう手で防ぐとはな。ガッハハハハ。
大石さんもそんな見え見えの積み込みは勘弁。これが馬場なら今ので卓をひっくり返してたところですよ。
いえいえいえいえいえいえ、あなたを侮っていましたよ。あなたどうして
正直に話さんかい。若い頃はだいぶ慣らしたんだろ。
早稲田高田の馬場あたりでだいぶ遊ばせてもらいました。ちょっと勝ちまくりすぎて馴染みの店に今の家内にだいぶ怒られて足を洗ったんです。
勝ちまくりすぎて？あんた当時はどのくらいの勝率で？
メンツにもよりましたが、歌舞伎町あたりで打つときはほぼ負けなしでした。特に相手があれ系の人の時は命かかってましたからね。
20 times. What kind of stakes were those? Did you have Yakuza on your table or pro baseball players?
なんだな、クラウド。このタクは。お前どっからこんなプロ雀士みたいなの引っ張ってきたんだ。もうやめだや。ああ、もう坊主。お父さん父さん。
ありがとうございます。光栄です。
いやいや、しかし赤坂さん、あんたなんで就職なんかしたの？あんたならフリーで十分に飯食っていける。
プロ雀士には腕と月の両方が必要な。私には後者がありませんでしたから。
好きなんてその時のあんたほどの腕があれば十分にいけると思うがな。
波の月じゃダメなんですよ。缶したら3回に1回くらいはそのままカンドラが4つ乗ってここぞという時に狙ってリンシャンが引ける。そのくらいじゃないと。
赤坂君、そんなのが頻繁にできたらそれはもう。
いえ、イカ様でも超能力でもなくそのくらいの打ち手は結構いるんですよ。新宿で知り合った泣くたびにドラが乗りまくる雀士なんか鬼のように強かったですし、横浜で打ったプロなんかは当たり前のように一発で引き当ててましたからね。
Yokohama.
私にはああいう月がないんです。
The type of folk were those? What type of folk were those? They weren't named Ryu or Satoshi by any
と
chance.
いうわけで総合トップは私でよろしいですね。
へいへいへい、乾杯でございます。
負けた負けた。久しぶりに大負けだ。
しかし 撃ってる時の坊主、気合結構怖かったぜ。
よく言われます。自分ではそんなに目つき変えてるつもり、そんなに怖い目になってます。
What the fuck is that voice? The three of us nodded empathetically in agreement. So that was Akasaka-kun, the Mahjong prodigy. Before he goes home for his assignment, maybe I could have him go play at a high-stakes table in my place. But it's not good to get greedy.
じゃあ仕方ないや。約束です。夜の学習会はこれでお開きにしましょう。申し訳ありませんね。今夜はこれでお開き。
しゃあねえな。冷えて寝るわ。体力つけんと体が持たん。
お仕事が大変なんですか？
ああ、おやっさんはひなみ沢ダムの第一工区の監督さんなんです。住民とは連日小競り合いをしてますからね。
He's the foreman. Wait, is that the guy who gets killed? Because that didn't happen yet, right? It's still like in the midst of it.
しんどい商売ですよ。
来年あたり第二航空も任されちまうかもしれねえ。黒田さん、血圧上がりまくりって聞いたしよ。身が持たねえや。
おやっさんなら大丈夫でしょう。あなた、見た目よりも面の皮厚めですしね。
俺だって仏じゃねえからな。腹渡にいくり返るときあるぞ。特に園崎のあの小娘は我慢がならん。あいつの顔面いつか簡単には治らんくらいに歪ませたろって思ってる。
まあまあまあ。でも給料はいいんでしょ？かなり破格の給金だって聞きました。
おっとりめえだ。あんなに世知がれえ職場で給料が安かったら誰も残らんよ。あ、クラウド。警察はいつになったら村の人間全部追っ払ってくれるんだ。国から立ち退き命令とか出てるんだろ？
ねえ、どうなってるんでしょうね。
The old man, who identified himself as the foreman of the Hinamizawa Dam, spewed a few complaints until he felt better about it, then left quietly.
あとは佐藤さんに任せますかね。
大石さんは帰られるんですか？
私が一緒でもお邪魔しちゃうだけでしょ。それに佐藤さんの仕事を買ったのはあなたです。私は対価を払ってませんからね。
Oishi was kind of sketchy, but he was strangely conscientious about some things. I felt quite a bit of a gap between myself and Ayoshi's generation from the part of him I didn't comprehend.
じゃあ坊主、いや、ジャンシ様にもう坊主なんて言えねえな。赤坂くんでよかったっけ？
はい。
じゃあ赤坂くん、行こうか。
では赤坂さん、また何か困ったことがあったらいつでも頼りに来てください。
大石さんにお支払いできるような対価はもう持ってませんよ。
んじゃ、今度の勝負で少し手加減してもらえたらチャラにしますよ。
Oishi seemingly not to have had his fill of playing around, but without overstaying his welcome, disappeared into the night. Okay. So that's how we got our informant. It's Sato. Sato's the guy who is gonna actually be our informant. But the other guy just happened to also be the guy who's the informant named Sato had me get into his car before we set off. He favored narrow roads and made numerous short left
左折
turns.
法による尾行確認ですか？
詳しいな。
Checking to see if you were being tailed by making left turns was a rather classic technique. If it was just a single pursuer, you could confirm it that way. But if you were being tailed by as a team, this archaic method wouldn't let you shake them. Of course, doing it anyway was better than
赤
not.
坂くんが何者かは旦那から何も聞いてないんだが、やっぱり警察関係かい？尾行確認に詳しいなんて、あとは探偵者くらいしか思いつかねえね。
言わなければならないものでないなら拒否したい質問ですね。
やれ やれ。麻雀やってからすっかり雰囲気が大人びちまったな。会った時のあのおどおどしたあんたはどこ行っちゃったんだよ。
I smile weirdly. Looking back now, I had to be a little bit grateful for being made to play mahjong. Thanks to that, I was able to relieve some tension. Eventually, Satsuki-san confirmed that there was no car following us, slipped outside the city. We were on a pitch-black country road, unable to see anything besides the lights outside. The only thing I was able to hear was the humming of the cars, air conditioning, and the chirping of the insects and frogs.
旦那からひなみ沢村については多少のことは聞いてんだろ？
御三家という旧家による支配や、現在は園崎家が一党独裁をしているとか、そういう話ですか？
そこまで知ってるならくだらない前置きは。
ではお願いします。
I'll cut the introductions, okay.
犬飼大臣の孫の誘拐に鬼ヶ淵死守同盟が関与しているか否かを。
Sato-san checked the rearview mirror one more time to confirm there wasn't anyone behind us before speaking.
昨夜園崎本家で親族会議が開かれた。親族会議ってのは旦那から聞いてるか？
いえ。
No.
普通に親族会議って言ったらまあ親戚が集まってお茶でも飲むようなもんだよな。だが園崎本家の親族会議っていうのはそんなのんびりしたものとはわけが違う。
That would be a meeting between those who truly control Hinamizawa village. They wouldn't be talking about private family matters, it would be about the village as a whole. About organizing activities against the dam project. Among other things, everything would be decided there. In reality, they were deciding the fate of the village. At the head of the meeting was Uryo Sonozaki. More or less, Empress Sonozaki, as the ultimate decision-making of the clan, she was to be feared and respected. Infirm with old age, she was often unable to stand on her own, but her words carried enough weight to sway the fate of the village. It seemed that lately she had grown weak, and on the days where she wasn't feeling well, remained bedridden. Family councils that occurred while she was feeling well took place with her on the floor. In the middle of the dignified Japanese-style room, still in a futon, only the upper half of her body sitting upright, a stern look on her face, and was Uryo Sonozaki. Sitting next to her was her heir, Mion Sonozaki. She was still young. No, young wasn't quite the right word. She was a girl who remained childish. Her role was to merely sit beside Uryo Sonozaki, sometimes responding to her requests, however. She was the only one deemed worthy to succeed Uryo. She had the same hawkish eyes, even to give pause to anybody who so much as looked at them. Much was expected of her in the future. This granddaughter of Sonozaki village, Sonozaki leader. And also on either side of her sat several other important members of the remaining three families, the Kimiyoshi family and the Furude family. First on the list was Kimiyoshi family, was of course the mayor of Hinamizawa village, Kichiro Kimiyoshi. And lined up beside him was several more of his direct relatives. Opposite he sat on the other side of the three families was the Furude family. The Furude family was only comprised of the family of the Shinto priest, so the only one sitting there was said priest, his wife, and their daughter Rika-chan. Rika was doted on by many of the older folks in the village, and it seemed like Uryu was no exception. While the stress from just attending a family council was said to be enough to shorten your lifespan by 3 days, it seemed like Rika was the only one exempt from that. No matter how charged the atmosphere was around her, she paid no mind, instead humming along as she doodled in a sketchbook. In fact, the night before, laying on her stomach while humming and doodling, she nonchalantly tucked her legs into Uryu's futon. like it was a kotatsu. All this was the three families, and all around the room lined row up row were relatives of the Sonozaki family. The only ones who were afforded cushions to sit on were the direct relatives. The others were left to sit on the seizi position directly on the tatami mats, with Empress Sonozaki enshrined at their what's it called? With Empress Sonozaki enshrined at their center, there were almost like a giant snake coiled around the room. It was decided that everybody would sit in order of their rank. The number of people from the Sonozaki family was overwhelming. The fact that the Sonozaki family held so many seats at the meeting were everything pertaining to the village was decided and made determining where the balance of power was held in the three families as clear as day. The number of members in attendance from each of the families directly reflected on how much influence they had in ruling Hinamizawa.
その会議で何が話されたんですか？
Sato-san, after remaining silent for a while, quietly began to speak.
マスコミ関係に支払ってる謝礼金の額が大きいんじゃないかい？
Breaking the long moment of silence, he began, was the head of the Kimiyoshi family, Kichiro Kimiyoshi. The Onikafuchi Guardians wasn't a business. They were nothing more than a private organization pushing for the cancellation of the Hinamizawa Dam project with no reliable source of income. Fundraising had always been a problem. When they first started operating, they had managed to collect sizable amounts of funds through donations, but as the conflict dragged on, the amount was steadily declining.
石を投げるだけが全ての時代じゃないさ。マスコミの力も侮れないのは重々承知しているし、今後もその力を借りたいのは同じさ。
The expression of the people related to the Sonozaki family were sullen, as the one who suggested that they should borrow the power was the family head Oryo Sonozaki. The battle wasn't just about force of arms. It was in this civilized age there were civilized methods of fighting. Oryu suggested that creating a strategy incorporating the mass media. Oryu's foresight was spot on, and the effects of the plan, while at first unclear, slowly began to manifest. If the physical confrontation at the construction site was meant to delay progress on the dam by even one day, then the propaganda war using the media was aimed at attacking the dam project itself. At first, there were those who had doubts about the strategy, but there was nobody now who called those results into question. But in order to maintain those media ties, the colossal amount of money was required. As long as the amount of funds they had was abundant, things would turn out fine. It couldn't be argued that it was a massive expense, but the results spoke for themselves. But with the conflict continuing to drag on, the circumstances had changed. The head of the Sonozaki family, the one who sat at the pinnacle of Hinamizawa's three families, Oryu, had suggested the idea herself, so it was already untouchable and continued to be allowed to drain from the budget. Nobody acknowledged that it should be so allowed, but nobody could say anything. That was the price of dealing with the mass media.
どうも、お嬢さん。
The only person who could object to the plan proposed by the head of the Sonozaki household herself was probably Mayor Kimiyoshi. Oryu, with a hard-to-define expression on her face, as if she was severed herself from the fetters of moral emotion, simply listened quietly to Kimiyoshi's words. But really, it was hard to tell if she was quietly listening or did didn't even have the intention of listening at all.
機関士の値上げの理解を得るのにも随分苦労したじゃない。一度だけってことで理解を得て、また今年もってわけにはいかないよ。ねえ、古手さん。
The mayor looked to the priest and his wife from the Furude family for affirmation. The priest gave a vague expression, avoiding a prompt response. But his wife gave her answer without a second
そう
thought.
ですね。機関士代は特に貧しい家には大きな負担になっています。みんな自分たちの村のためだからと耐えていますが、これ以上の値上げはやめた方がいいでしょうね。
The bulletin was, as in name implied, a bulletin published by the Onigafuchi Guardians. It outlined the Alliance activities, ideals, and resolve, but you couldn't deny the contents were rather piecemeal. The bulletin's main goal wasn't to inform people, but rather something to sell to business and people living in the village, or connected to and using those sales to collect funds. In other words, it had become something of a tax. Of course, it didn't have to be said that this was one of the main source of income for the Onigafuchi Guardians. Originally, purchase was supposed to be voluntary, but in Hinamizawa it had silently become the opposite. In the neighboring towns as well, it seemed that many businesses were buying copies just to avoid butting heads with the Alliance. The priest whispered to his wife to not say anything unnecessary, but this was struck down decidedly with a cold glare. Cowering from that glare, the priest shut his mouth. The priest's wife always held the power in the relationship. That was because she was the only one who carried the Furude bloodline. The priest merely married into the family. He was nothing more than somebody who adopted the name just to join the three family. Oh, interesting. Okay, so it's just the mom. He should have been able to find a spot fairly high up in the hierarchy of things. He should have been able to hierarchy, but the lack of authority in his voice meant that he had still not gained any favors. Casting a backwards glance at her rather desperate parents, Rika continued to doodle whimsically without paying them any mind. Signaled by the look of Oryu, Mion brought her ear closer to her grandmother. Something was said to her in a quiet voice. After responding with a couple of questions, with a nod from Oryu, Mion looked around the room and conveyed her grandmother's words.
機関士の値上げもやむを得ません。
Kimiyoshi made a face like he had just bit into something unpleasant, but that expression quickly disappeared like it had never happened at all.
だけどミオンちゃん、君だって分かってると思うけど、機関士の負担は決して軽いもの。南沢の全ての人間にかかる重みなんだ。あんまり負担をかけすぎれば内部から崩れることだって。
内部から崩れるのは誰ですか？
どれって別にそういう。
最初に崩れるのは誰かと聞いています。
Being cross-examined by a girl who still had fragments of childishness remaining within her, the words stuck in Kimiyoshi's throat and he sunk into silence. Mion repeated her question once more, looking around at the crowded room. Everyone refrained, making eye contact to avoid being pierced by her gaze. The words she had spoken were unarguably said in proxy for Oryu. That was when Mion spoke them. They carried the same weight, but the look in her eyes was different. Like Oryu, they had a hawkish gaze strong enough that anyone looking upon them would freeze in their tracks and yield. But that gaze was without question one of that belonged to Mion herself. as Mion would eventually inherit everything from Oryu. The day when she would stand up as a young and capable leader in her own right would come. Nobody wanted to believe otherwise for even a minute. That's why nobody even thought of Mion as just some sort of little kid.
君吉さん、機関士の値上げごときでは誰の決意も崩れませんよ。
Kimiyoshi, while grumbling a little bit, made a gesture as if to say he had no objection.
マスコミ関係への出費は継続とします。その出費がさらに圧迫となるようなら、機関士の値上げもやむを得ない。
Mion had rendered her judgment. Everybody bowed their heads silently, listened to her words.
園崎家当主代行、園崎美音です。我が名において以上決定し、決定の効力は即日発行されるものとします。異議はこれを認めず、抵抗ある場合は実力をもって排除します。
The formal decree was read aloud, indicating her judgment. There would be no retrial, but there was a certain authority behind those words that even a courthouse couldn't compare to. If she was a judge, she would have banged her gavel, signaling that the matter was settled. Mion pulled out a large bell from inside her clothes and rang it. Everybody present could only protest themselves before the harsh sound of the bell.
なんとも大時代的な親族会議ですね。
あんたみたいな若いもんにはちょっと信じられ。こういう古い土地にはこんなのが未だ根強く残ってるもんさ。
It was exactly as Oyoshi had said. I keep thinking Oryu. The old system of the three family had vanished, and now the Sonozaki family was running things by themselves. On top of that, their rule was borderline despotic? Despotic.
会議はそれで終わりですか？
いや、まだ続く。先を続けるよ。
Eventually, after the ringing bell ceased, there was a deafening silence. Within all that, a lone man shuffled closer to Mion and whispered something in her ear. Mion asked several questions quietly in response. When she was satisfied, she motioned the man to leave. The man who talked to Mion was a member of the gang that her father was the leader of. The organization had the entire area of Shishibone under their control, so it was quite well known even here. Of course, this was talking about the criminal underworld, so it's not like just anybody would know. But just showing a patch with the gang symbol on it was enough to resolve any dispute in the neighborhood. Mion's biological father, Oryu, was her daughter's husband. Okay. Oreo's the grandmother. She had a daughter. That's worded so badly. Mion's biological father to Oreo was her granddaughter's husband. What the fuck? That is like the worst constructed sentence ever. It's trying to say that there's the grandmother. She has a daughter. The daughter married the father, and the father, Mion's biological father, is married to the daughter of Oryu. Is that what it's trying to say? Because that is one of the worst worded sentences I think I've ever seen. That is so confusing. Either that or I'm a terrible reader, which both could be true. The power of that man's gang had the driving force that controlled the dark underbelly of Onigafuchi Guardians. And so that man, from his position as the next in line to control that three families, continued to coerce everyone around him with an unconventional presence. Mion exchanged a look with her father. Was it only for her to tell what she just heard directly to Uryu? It looked like she was asking him that question. Her father gently but firmly nodded his response. Mion also nodded, then sided up to Uryu and informed her of something. Eventually, Mion finished conveying her message, separating herself from Uryu, and fixed her posture, waiting for Uryu to signal her response. It wasn't often that Uryu showed any emotion. That's why, when she started to laugh quietly, a vague sense of uneasiness crept over everyone in the room. Uryu was laughing so happily that Kimiyoshi had hesitantly asked,
どうしたんだい、お嬢さん。
我らにとって土地が母なら、この度のダムの騒ぎは、母の命を脅かされる騒ぎっちゅうことだろうな。
Kimiyoshi, unable to comprehend the meaning of her words, looked confused. Uryu, with a wide grin on her face, turned towards everyone and addressed them in a clarion voice.
ダムの親玉の大臣がの、孫さらわれちまって、右往左往しとるっちゅう話だ。これでおあいこだの。
バカな。
Information on the kidnapping of Mr. Inukai's grandson shouldn't have leaked from anywhere. How did they know? Even we didn't know how much the kidnapping about the kidnapping incident. Exactly how did they antiquated household so far away from Tokyo come to know of this? It was a tranquil place, but I couldn't help but have an uneasy feeling about Hinamizawa village. At some point, I had mentally filed this place away as an unrelated to the incident at hand. The mental paperwork had just blown away in the wind.
どうして鬼ヶ淵獅子同盟が知っているんだ。
Sato-san, unable to come up with an answer, fell into
すみま
silence.
せん。続きをお願いします。
なあ、
犬飼建設大臣のお孫さんが、さあ、お嬢さん、それは本当かい？
The mayor of the major of an incident was nowhere to be seen on the newspaper or on TV. But in Hinamizawa, there was nothing strange about Uryu knowing something that the rest of the world didn't.
我らの痛みは母を失う痛みじゃの。それに値するとは思わんが、孫を失う痛み。
Yo, this lady is actually evil.
少しは答えるといいんじゃがの。なあ。
The last question wasn't addressed to anyone in particular. It was as if she was looking for a consensus.
だが、土地と人様の子供では隠すのはかまんが、怪我だけはさせたくないものよの。こにゃ何の罪もね、大事にしたいな。
それはつまり鬼ヶ淵獅子同盟が。
必ずしもそうとは言えねえな。
どうして当主であるお領がこれほどまではっきりと誘拐した孫の処遇について指示を出しているのに。
兄さん、こりゃね、園崎家のいつものことなんだよ。
いつものこと？それはどういう意味です？
Let's say there was a particular problem. One that wasn't exactly favorable for the Sonozaki family. If Oreo shows concern over that particular problem, hearing that somebody would attend the family council would be somebody who attended the family council would be helpful. As a result, Uryu-san's wishes would be granted. However, neither Uryu or anyone else would know who exactly did it. With this kind of clever little ploy, the Sonosaki family was able to manipulate events even though they had their hands laid out on the table.
では、親族会議に出席していた誰かが犯人ということですか？
あるいはそもそも犯人なんかいない可能性だってあるよな。俺自身その万座の一同の中に誘拐犯がいるって確信を持ってるわけだ。自分の意見を述べただけさ。
It was odd, an unpleasantly secretive way of doing things. Were they involved or weren't they? I couldn't see beyond the veil. This much, however, I could say with certainty. This kidnapping was an ironclad secret. No matter how high a position someone was in, even they wouldn't know about it. If there was somebody who would know about it, it would be connected to the public safety. In other words, one of us. The only other option were people connected to the case itself, including the minister that were to be affected in the incident, or the people that committed it. In any case, there's no way an old household in a place removed from Tokyo by over 6 hours of a highway travel should know about it. Them knowing at all was already strange. My suspicions began to accumulate, like falling snow.
孫の誘拐についてお涼が述べたのはここまでだ。あんたの知りたかったことが含まれてりゃいいんだ。あとは兄ちゃんの仕事だな。何のお仕事やってるか知らんけど、園崎家を相手にするなら相当の大石の旦那は怖いもの知らずだけどな。あれでも 2,3 回は襲われてる。最近は来てないけど、一時はオフの時も防塵ベストを着込んでたんだよな。
ええ、忠告ありがとうございます。気をつけることにします。
標準語が流暢だよな。兄さんは東京とかの人？
え？それが何か？
Investigators were always close to danger. It was best not to divulge any information on
兄さんのお
myself.
仕事だけど、ひょっとして警視庁の公安部の人？
まさか。
こっから旦那からもらった金の範囲には入らないんだが、兄さんとは今日宅を囲んだ仲間だからな。サービスってことで話してやるよ。お涼から誘拐の話が出た後、もう一つ話題が出たんだ。
Another topic that Oreo brought up. And right before he told me this, Sato asked if I was from the Metropolitan Police Public Safety Division. In other words, what those two things meant caused a chill run up my spine.
そんででな、大臣の孫さらったのを調べるために東京からはるばる公安の捜査官が派遣されてくるっちゅう。
公安の捜査官？
大臣の孫の誘拐な、うかつにゃ大ごと警視庁の公安部が独自で調べとるっちゅう話だ。はっ、大行なこったの。どうした？
Rika, who had been drawing the entire time, was completely uninterested in the conversation up until now. Oh shit!
警視庁が来たのですか?
Wait, hold on. Uninterested in the conversation up until now, looked at Ori with an interesting face as soon as the topic of public safety came up.
リカちゃまは警視庁も知ってなさるんかい。偉いの。
誰が来たのですか?
公安のどんな奴が来よったんか。誰ぞわかる奴はおらんかいな。
Mion's father raised his hand
新
slightly.
米の若造が一人と聞き及んでおります。
新米？ほかほかなのですか?
ええ、新米とか。
Mion's father smiled weirdly as he answered Rika's question.
ほかほかのふかふか?
ええ。
ほかほかのふかふか?
Rika smiled with interest. Why did Rika suddenly act interested only when it came to this topic? That was the question that apparently nobody had an
リ
answer
カちゃ
to.
まはその男のことを何か知っているのかな。
知んないのですよ。
After her rather flat reply, Rika buried herself underneath Oreo-san's futon again. But when she buried herself there, Rika no longer started to draw. Instead, she was making an expression like she was in deep contemplation.
どうしますか。
Okasa.
Mion's father posed the question. He had the type of unclouded expression on his face, indicating that, given the order, he could stuff the problem out at any time.
はるばるひなみ沢までしばらくはのんびりさせてやるのもよ。
泳がせろということでしょうか。
Mion's father asked in response. Oreo smiled thinly as she responded.
ほっといたれな。が、あんまりおいたが過ぎるようやった。なめられるのはすっきゃせんね。
なんて話があったそうだ。まさかあんた、その警視庁の新米じゃないよな。
まさか。
The sensation of cold, blistering fear began to crawl its way up my back. This family council took place last night. In other words, yesterday. Then today, when I was dressed up in the tours headed towards Hinamizawa, my cover was already blown. When I remembered the first person I met when I got to the bus stop, I couldn't breathe. The person at the family council who expressed interest in the man being dispatched from the Metropolitan Police, Rika Furude, and then the person who was waiting for me the whole time in the bus shelter, Rika Furude. It was an unthinkable image. No, it was a delusion. When we met at the bus shelter, did Rika-chan already know my true identity? Did she know I was Akasaka, dispatched from the Metropolitan Police Department, and came to meet me? Then, including Mayor Kimiyoshi, every villager that I met, everybody knew but just pretended not to. Because Oreo had given instructions not to interfere? Thinking about it logically, it didn't seem possible. I met quite a number of people. If there were people that were good at acting, then there's people who were bad at hiding things. If there was that many people, then there should be somebody among them who knew I was public safety and couldn't hide their hostility. However, I didn't feel any presence like that. But then, even still, why did Oreo tell them to leave me alone? Was it because they were careless about it and it wouldn't only raise more suspicion? Or was it because they believed a rookie like me wouldn't be able to find anything? Akasaka is a coward. I recalled the strange voice which could only make me believe that Rika-chan had been possessed. The unknown entity, no matter how you look at it, knew my true identity from the get-go. And then, how did it warn me again? That's right. It warned me to hurry up and go back to Tokyo, instead of the realistic worry that the Onigafuchi Guardians had discovered my identity. The absurd worry brought on by the unknown girl stuck in my... unknown girl stuck with me more. What exactly was that girl? What was that thing I would eventually regret? That mysterious girl, Rika Furude. Let's stop this. Everything I think of right now was merely conjecture. Tomorrow, first thing in the morning, I'll report everything I heard right now to HQ and await further orders. There was no mistaking that the possibility of the Onigafuchi Guardians were related to the case was there. And the fact that my cover was blown meant I was in precarious position. But as everyone at HQ was already extremely busy, they might not be able to spare the support.
もういいかい？よければ好きなところまで送るよ。
あ、すみません。では、お会いした元の駅までお願いします。
The rural roads were even a street light was rare. I couldn't see anything. I wasn't aware of anything but the asphalt that was lit up by the headlights. Outside of the light was a skimpy darkness. Was it simply darkness? Or was it something lurking there, waiting to strike? I had to think. I drew the short draw here. I wanted to go back to Tokyo. For some reason, the voice of the girl warning me to go back to Tokyo still lingered in my head. Alright, and that should be it. All right, we did learn a lot here. So, if I'm correct, we're probably going to get an update on the kidnapping as well as one one more insight on whoever those monologues were about, like that person who was talking. Okay, so one of these should be about the kid. Okay. An investigation runs aground?
昨日銀座の料亭でお会いしてね。そういう話が出たんだよ。
別室の謁見でしょう。連中、公安に干渉しすぎですよ。あまり迎合すると悪い洗礼を残しますね。
犬飼大臣は公安の動きに不快感をあらわにしているらしい。多分月曜の町議で次官からその旨の話が出るんじゃないかと思う。参ったな。
次官へは局長級に話つけてもらうしかないですよ。給料を多くもらってる人の当然の仕事ってことで。
まあそうなると局長からは絶対に大臣脅迫の物証を求められるよな。
If this comes to that, they're going to ask him for proof that the minister is being threatened.
あの人、たまにどっちの味方か分かんなくなりますね。うちらの味方しなくてどうすんのっての。
まあ多分大臣を経由しての圧力だと思ってるけどね。俺が時間室で油汗かいて時間稼ぐ間に調査進めてもらうしかないよな。全身の汗絞られて絞りかすになっちゃうかもしれないけどな。でどうなの？調査の進行は。
期待してた濃厚なラインがことごとく外れて正直途方に暮れてます。
最近の大臣発言をまとめると、ひなみ沢ダムの計画の話が目立つっていう報告を聞いたけど、それはどうなの？
目立つっていうか、本当に微細な程度の違和感ですね。たまたま県議連でのスピーチだったから時事ネタを話しただけかもしれないし。
確か地元団体が過激に抵抗してるってやつだっけ？鬼ヶ淵死守同盟。確か赤坂君に調べてもらってたよね。
僕は連中には今回の事件は起こせないと踏んでいます。ですが疑わしいところのほとんどが真っ白な以上、疑いの枠から外すわけにはいかないかもですね。赤坂君からはその可能性は否定できないとの軽い報告は受けています。
なら調べてみる価値はあるんじゃないの？しらみつぶしなんだから、残る疑わしい団体がそこ一つならやるしかないでしょ。
まあ調べる団体はそこだけじゃないんですがね。鬼ヶ淵と同じ程度のレベルで疑わしい団体になるともう相当の数になりますよ。人手も時間も残業代も全然足りません。
赤坂君からさ、もうちょっと詳しく聞いてみてよ。俺はちょっと要注意に感じるけどな。
彼、村人とうまく接触できたって連絡してきました。現地の警察とも連携できてるみたいですね。
赤坂君との連絡密にしてください。それで彼からの情報が引っかかるようであれば増援を送ることもありということ。
わかりました。
Okay, so they can't send reinforcements.
局長からお電話こっちに回しますか？
ああ、いい。そっち行きます。もしもし。
Okay, so they can send backup. At least that's what he said there. I don't know if the phone call might say otherwise, but there they said they can send backup. Do you... Okay, this is probably the monologue. Do you believe that there's a choice in life? There are choices in life. There are many people who lament the following. If there only existed points in life where there were clear choices to make, we would all be able to scrutinize those carefully and make decisions that would lead us to a better future. Every time I hear people lament as such, I cast it off as a rather trivial worry. Even if you were given clear choice, it wouldn't be meaningful at all, and there wouldn't be any such path to a better future. Is that hard to understand? Then let's pretend that in front of you there were two strange boxes. In other words, you had two clear choices. Do you open the red box or the blue box? A lot of things would be uncertain even with that choice, wouldn't they? If you don't have the option to open neither, then your choice boils down to the natural impulse of opening the box that holds the better result for you. Then, after examining the shape and features of each, and pondering a great many things, you have to pick either the red or the blue. If this was you, which box would you open? Probably I think just going off of color theory, blue always represents like more security and stuff like that, whereas like red represents like, like Knuckles, like fury. So and Sonic of course represents, freedom and like, being yourself and stuff. So it's kind of hard to say, do I pick Knuckles or Sonic? I was always more of a Sonic fan, so I think I would go Sonic on this one. Blue or red or blue. If you were to go with their traditional meanings, the red would be a dangerous, threatening color. However, that doesn't automatically mean that it would be a calm and relaxing inside the blue either. In fact, it might even be the colors are a trap, making you wary of the red box and having you open the blue. A trap? Could it be connected to could it be the content of the box aren't a reward but rather a penalty? See, now you're at a loss. You're so conflicted over the choice between red and blue that you started wishing there was an option to open neither and just leave. But there isn't. You have to open either the red box or the blue box. Oh, I forgot to say this, but if you choose one box, the other will disappear. So you'll never know the contents of the box you didn't open. I'll just put that rule at the end of there for you. Now, why don't you choose the red or the blue box? It's alright, you won't lose anything by picking one or the other. Come on. I mean, I already said blue box, so I'm a Sonic fan. Have you thought about it? In the end, you chose this color, didn't you? As soon as you choose, the other box disappears. So you can give up on the contents of that one, okay? That's the rule. Now open the box you chose. Inside the box there was a stick of chewing gum. I know you're a little disappointed. Well, that's only natural. No matter how you look at it, it looks like you drew the dud. The correct box might have had a bar of chocolate in it, for all you know. No, in fact, something incredible like a pair of tickets to Hawaii might have been there. But even if you wanted to verify that, the other box has already disappeared. There's no way you can check now. But if you think about it from an optimistic point of view, just maybe the other box was empty and this box was the winner. And being satisfied, or perhaps not, with such a cheap prize, you popped into your mouth and start chewing it happily. So what did you think in the end? If you were given a second chance, would you try to open the other box? But unfortunately, the chance to choose between the red box and the blue box had come and gone, never to be seen again. The chance to change your selection will never come. Don't your parents often say every choice you make in life only happens once, so choose carefully? See? Choices aren't that great after all. Aren't you a little disillusioned now? Okay, that was interesting. Yeah, this guy's kind of like a troll, basically. That's what he sounds like. He just sounds like a troll.
はい。それで、お通夜が明日の午後6時からになりまして、告別式が明日、会場は沖宮セレモニーホールになります。
か。 池澤助役のお孫さんの葬式じゃ、何にも挨拶なしってわけにもいかんね。みよ、代わりに出てえな。
うん、了解。喪服で行く？香典はいくらくらい？
学校の服でええんね。前のボタンちゃんと留めてくんねよ。香典は5万。10万包んだれな。世話になったかんな。
Mia quietly whistled in awe at the exorbitant amount of money her grandmother was
池
offering.
澤さんはな、大木宮の事務所長だった頃から、しっかりした人だったんね。役人は挨拶って言っても、絶対に玄関までし。でもな、池澤さんはわしがお茶を勧めると、いっつも上がってくれて、ちゃんと話を聞いてくれた。人の話を最後まで聞く、本当に鏡みたいな人だったんね。
Oh shit! Wait, I read that in my mind. My fault. The two guests made a show of nodding, making it clear that they were paying attention to Oreo's reminiscence. The sight of them trying not to get on Oreo's bad side was humorous enough to elicit laughter from Mion occasionally.
池澤助役のお孫さんはいくつで亡くなったんね。
11歳だそうで。
Oreo closed her eyes and shook her head lightly, lamenting the loss of such a young life.
確か孫は一人だ言うてんな。親より先に死ぬほどの親不幸はあるめな。
ばっちゃんも他人には優しいね。私やシオンが死んだら同じように悲しんでくれる？
アホん抜かすんでね。演技でもねすったなんと、しゃらーあったく。
Having got the reaction she expected, Mian cackled. The two guests unsure if they were supposed to laugh along instead of forced awkward smiles.
それでは本日は失礼いたします。では明日の夕方5時にお迎えに参りますんで。よろしくお願いいたします。ではごめんくださいませ。
After bowing their heads repeatedly, the guests left the front door. Mion saw them off, waving her little hand goodbye.
帰ったよ。お役人もばっちゃんのご機嫌伺いに大変だね。不法なんか電話でいいと思うのにね。
Well, it was true that Oreo Sonozaki was the central person for both their relatives at the residence and the residents of Hinamizawa village as a whole. As a voting bloc, they numbered in the several thousands. It wasn't hard to imagine the mayor would try to pander to her. Unlike Mion, however, Oreo was looking up longingly at the sky from the whatever.
もうろくした？
From the veranda.
誰のお孫さんであろうと、気の毒だのう思ったんよ。
Saying that, she let out a deep sigh. Mion was let down, as normally her grandmother would have scolded her for her attitude.
みよ、これ、例の大臣の孫、さらわれてからどのくらいになる？
4日かな。
4 days. Oreo let out another deep sigh.
敵の孫とはいえ、気の毒だな。
そう。
十分気はせいたんろ。そろそろ終わりにしちゃれな。
That's enough of a warning. We should bring this to an end soon. The playful expression drained from Mion's face, leaving behind a stern one. And then, as if to a certain Oreo-san's will, look her into her eyes. Oreo expressing her intention with only those eyes, looked back into
お
Mion's.
茶が欲しいんで頼んでな。さっきのチョコレートも食べといね。
Mion gave a smiling nod, then turned around.
シミコさん、いますか？抹茶に紅茶入れてあげてください。
From far away, a voice responded in the affirmation. Mion, after confirming she'd been heard, picking up the phone and began dialing.
あ、もしもし？ミオンだけど。うん。うちのお父さん、います。
Okay. So that was it. And that was chapter 3? Chapter 3, I think. We'll just save here. Let me do the classic of continue and just save on the first screen. Hoping that's an actual image and it's a dark screen. Alright. That sucks. But anyway, yeah, that was chapter 3. That's pretty good. There was a lot of exposition, of course, just a lot of insight on what is going. We got a very firm insight on the sort of power structure of the families and just how these meetings work, essentially. Now, the only thing that's left me wondering is who exactly is the guy that informed our guy, because we don't know him technically. He just goes by Sato, but we don't know if he's someone that we know already who lives in Hinamizawa. But yeah, that was a good part. It was a little exposition-y. It was kind of just like a lot of explaining. It wasn't really too interesting. It was just fine. We got a good amount. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say. It was just fine. I hope next chapter is a little more exciting. But yeah, thank you for listening, everyone. I hope you had a great time. See you later. Don't know when. Maybe tomorrow. I'll see if I'm not lazy. See ya.